Welcome to the DataStream. Joining me in my panel of guests today, we've got founder of Uber Games, Mr. Timothy Oliver, developer of the famous RPG
Hello.
We've got Mr. Richard Evans from the Data Network.
Good evening.
And we've got the president of one of the RPGX role-playing groups, Mr. Jensen Brown.
Hello.
So, our main topic today is talking about Elite Force. It's recently celebrated 13 years and we've just ran a little tournament about it. So, if you don't know what Elite Force is, here's a quick recap.
Gentlemen, we are this facility's last hope. If we fail, all we have ever...
For God's sake, you're not going to try and rally us with a speech, are you?
So, that was a quick look at the various bits of Elite Force and some of the mods that come with it. Well, you can get for it. So, let's start our little talk. Let's start at the very beginning, when you first got the game. What are some of the things you remember from your first time playing it? I certainly know the Borg were quite scary for the first mission. Shall we start with Jensen?
Oh, let's see. I got the game, I think, in 2003. It was my first gaming clan. I just got it for fragging, of course. And then I remember, I think it was 2004, I think I happened upon an RP server. I think this was before RPGX was developed. Back when you had to defend the server from fraggers. That was always fun. And I loved the uniqueness of the game. The plot was meh, but I liked what you could do with it. I loved the multiplayer. I loved being able to run around ships. And when I discovered the RP aspect, I immediately fell in love with Magnificent, that wonderful map, and it was a love affair ever since.
Yeah, we had the Magnificent in our rotation for the tournament recently, and that was enjoyable running around on. But, of course, when you've got a small number of people, you could also get quite easily lost trying to run around after everyone with all the tunnels and things. So, great map.
Yes,
Tim?
Absolutely.
Me?
Yeah, what do you remember?
Oh boy, how long ago was it? I was playing. I played the demo for Elite Force way before it actually came out. One of my friends told me the demo had come out. I downloaded it for Mac because I didn't have a PC back then, and I was blown away the second I opened up the demo. It was a great game back then, and it's still a great game now. I still remember the first time I played single player. That was a really good experience. And then the first time I actually found a live server and holo match was really good. I kind of miss that from today's gaming perspective. I think gaming's changed a bit now, but I think Elite Force has a very special spot in my heart.
And of course, you've made one of the biggest mods for the game.
Oh,
Certainly most extensive.
it was good. Yeah, that was definitely a worthwhile endeavor doing. We're all very proud of that project.
And of course, it's still ongoing and more developers.
I know, right? I can't believe that. Most of us have moved on, but it's still going. There's still movements and there's still developers going on, which is really good.
And Richard?
goodness, I remember playing the game probably back, first looking at it 2007, 2008 possibly, playing single player, and then I think it was actually looking on YouTube, I found a video of a group playing RPGX, and I thought, wow, I want to be doing that. And I kind of, that's how I kind of fell in love with things. And of course, as any new person starting, they knew the hell out of the servers that were there, because you don't know what's going on, you don't know how to ask for help because there's no clear instructions, unfortunately. But yeah, and ever since then, kind of progressed into a full-blown love affair.
So everyone's very happy with playing the game in whatever game mode. So beyond those sort of first discovery things, anyone got any sort of favourite moments from when they've just been playing it on their own in sort of any of the single player levels or any of the great mods that are out there? Because we've got things such as the Enterprise NX-01 mod, we've had Colony 7, we've had Star Trek Wraith. There are so many mods and different single player levels available to experience. What are some favourite moments? If we go back to Richard again.
Oh goodness, what's my favourite moment? I think my absolute favourite moment is doing the end game mission in the single player mode. When you get the help, don't ask me who they are because my memory's terrible, but like the butterfly people. I'm going to name them butterfly people because I don't know.
I think it's Ethereans.
I'm going to trust you on that one because you probably know the characters.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so the Ethereans. I remember then coming along to help, destroy the seed so that, obviously Voyager could escape from the junkyard, of a better word. So, yeah, I think that's my most proudest moment, actually being able to pass that, because I think it took me about 4 or 5 attempts to do it. So, yeah. What about you, Jensen?
I think for me, in terms of single player, I loved exploring the ship, and I loved that first mission where you have like that engineering thing you have to take care of. Honestly, I'm such a nerdy Trekkie that was my favorite part of the game more than the combat. I just loved just going through the Jeffries tubes and seeing the part of the ship, and that's what really clung to me. In terms of RPGX, I think my favorite moment was when I ran Schisms, the political West Wing SRP. To me, that was one of my favorite moments, and I always wish I could go back to that.
My turn.
Yeah.
Well, I think Colony 7 definitely blew my mind. When that came out, I was absolutely amazed. It was one of the first examples where a massive team of people came together and actually created a really successful project. Beyond the gameplay, my favorite moment was when I actually learned how to do mods myself. Because when I first got the game, I knew nothing about game development, and I'd heard you could make mods for this game. And the first time ever was I found a program called PackRat, which is a program for Mac, and that lets you open up the PK3 files for Elite Force and then preview all the models and all the textures and even the shaders. So when I actually saw Elite Force from the other side for the first time, so all the models and how the textures interacted with shaders and how you got all those lovely little glowy effects, I was completely blown away because I was like, man, I could actually make mods for this myself. That was so good.
And of course, with Uber Games, you made RPGX 2. Well, you're on the development team for the first version as well.
That's correct.
But of
Phoenix
course, that was following on from somebody else's project, wasn't it?
Yes, that was. That was Phoenix. Phoenix was doing, what was it? He was originally forking another role-playing mod, but he wanted to take it a lot further. So he created RPGX, and he asked me to be a modeler initially. So I modeled all the weapons and all the tools in the project, and then once that was finished up, I was doing some programming in my free time. So I thought I'd take it a little bit further with RPGX2 and see if we could actually change the code base a bit more, make it a bit more role-play-ish as opposed to just a first-person shooter with a role-play component slapped on the side.
And then, of course,
Seemed to work out all right.
Yeah, and you've had a couple of other bits and pieces as well, such as your Archon tool and a few other little tidbits you've created.
That's Icon Unlimited is one that Phoenix developed himself. I developed one called Quake 3 Minimizer, which I think still kind of works on the current version of Windows. And we've got a few other projects as well. The last one I did was iPokédex, and hopefully soon I want to start another project called Ubercard at some point.
Because of course you used to have a project SteamerCard.
Yep, Ubercard is hopefully an innovation upon SteamerCard, but SteamerCard kind of died a little while ago.
So, Jensen, you've already said one of your favourite online moments. Any ones from HoloMatch, or is it RPGX tops all of those?
I like HoloMatch. I used to play Satan's Robot, and that was kind of fun to run around as a giant robot. I think Colhane's my favorite model, though, of course, which I love using for RPGX, which Tim, of course, developed. But no, I think most of my fond memories are on RPGX.
Richard? Richard, are you still there?
Uh-oh.
I'm afraid we seem to have had a bad data link to him. So, Tim, let's go to you for your online moments.
Online moments? It was weird because when you ran Elite Force on the Mac, it was actually being developed by a separate company. So Ravensoft were working on the Windows version. They'd put patches out, and then another company called Aspire would actually take those patches and port them to Mac. But the problem was Aspire was very, very slow. So it was kind of weird because 1.2 came out, but Mac was still in 1.1. So there was a very limited amount of online gameplay because Mac users couldn't play with Windows users, and there was basically 0 Mac users. So for the first few months, it was actually really, really boring. And then finally, Aspire worked really hard, like months after the PC patch came out. 1.2 came out for Mac, and it was absolutely incredible just to see servers and servers full of people. And the most awesome one was a huge Australian community I had no idea existed. So I actually joined in on them, and they were crazy good at Elite Force. So they were capable of taking on American teams and winning even with a ping disadvantage. So it was really cool playing with them. They've all gone at this point, but I've kept in touch with a few, and I still have really good memories of them because they could like exploit the map. They knew every rocket jump trick, everything. It was really hardcore.
And of course, Elite Force was very global. Even here, we've got people from the UK, Australia, and the US.
Excellent. It's hard connecting to the UK from Australia. Pings are always at least 500.
We noticed during our recent tournament, because we were using a US-hosted server, that European players did suffer quite a bit from pings, which is unfortunate.
We need faster internet in the world. Where's our bloody fibre?
So, have we got Richard back yet? Silence. So, let's talk about some of the things that you sort of hope to still see come out of Elite Force and where it could still move to. So,
Can I talk?
Well, yeah, let's start with Tim, because you know more about the happenings than anyone about the development in RPGX2 continued.
Well, the one thing I really, really want, more than anything else, is the ability to legally obtain Elite Force still. Because now it's been discontinued, that's it. It's not on Steam, it's not on Good Old Games, it's not on any online platform. If you want to get the game right now, you basically have to torrent it. You can't get it legally anymore. So what I'd really love for it to go forward right now is for Ravensoft to start distributing it somehow digitally, if they could. And I've spammed the leads of Ravensoft many times of emails asking about this, but I've never got a response, which is really sad.
Well, at least there's been some success in the online side of that.
Yeah.
If Jensen, you'd like to tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a couple years ago, actually, after a long process, we got permission from Ravensoft and CBS rather, to distribute the RPGX CE installer. It's mostly just for RPGX and connecting there, so it's not as much the single player aspects of the game. But that has been really invaluable in getting people into the RPGX community who wouldn't otherwise be able to get the game. And so we've had a lot of success there from Reddit, from Star Trek Online, and actually getting some new people into the game, which has been very, very helpful and has really kept the community kind of going. But yeah, still some work to be done.
That's excellent.
So how do you feel RPGX, and well, that seems to be the big bit still online, but of course there is still stuff happening in HoloMatch in much smaller numbers than there used to be, but there are still happenings. How do you think the game compares to the new games? Like, we've got Star Trek Online, which is getting continuous updates with its seasons, and you've got those new shooter games. Jensen?
You know, I think RPGX is a game has a lot of longevity, obviously, because it's like 12 years old, and for a game that's forever.
13.
Yeah, 13 rather. Yeah, I mean, I just like that RPGX to me fills a void that none of the other games have, just because it's so customizable. It's so dependent kind of on the users and the community in a way that I don't think the other games are. And I still think it's the best Star Trek role-playing platform out there. I mean, STO has better graphics and, you know, crazy support, but I would rather RP and RPGX. And so I think that's really the game's strength.
Well, it's amazing what you can actually still do with the graphics engine. Elite Force, of course, being based on the Quake 3 Arena 3 engine.
And what Griffin Endurance is doing with this map is absolutely amazing.
There was a map in development a while back, somebody creating a original series ship, and the detail they were able to get into their screenshots that they were taking was sort of phenomenal. It's all about getting the textures high, I think, because when you get them up, you can get it looking a lot nicer. So, Tim, where do you think the future's heading?
Oh, right, that's definitely true. I think a lot of people forget that Elite Force came on a single CD, so for the whole game to fit on it, they had to resort to making textures stupidly tiny, like some were as small as like 16 by 16 pixels. So compared to like modern day engines like the Source engine, the graphical technology hasn't actually evolved all that much. You've got shaders now, but at the core, as long as you've got high resolution textures, you can make it look really good. I'm very happy that the engine is actually still capable of forward compatibility with current technology that lets you actually put in these new textures, and it can actually handle these handle them properly. So ideally, I'd love to see this is something I'd love to spearhead at some point. Maybe like an HD remake of Elite Force, where everyone actually can just chip in and redo all the textures, redo all the models, because all the models are really low res as well. But again, that might be tricky, because that means you have to do new model formats as well. But yeah, there's obviously a lot of potential for expansion and improvement on the game engine, and we also have the source code to Intech 3 now, so we can always take that and actually push it further with that as well. So yeah, lots to do at this point, I'd say. And
there have been some really nice maps that have already come out, such as I Want Studios' Enterprise E map, which came with high-res textures, and that was very detailed and quite an extensive ship. I believe that's pushed the game to its limits quite a lot, didn't it?
That one doesn't run in vanilla EF, does it? You need the IOEF fork of the executable, don't you? It was RPGXEF, I think it's called.
Very extensive map and quite a few features in there. Very nice to look at.
Pushes the light map limit, I hear.
But of course, they've made other maps as well. The most recent, well, I guess it was also their last map, was the USS Atlantis, which was your flagship map for RPGX2.
Yes, that was a good map. That map was incredible. I used that map a lot to test when I was developing RPGX, just to see if the models and the emoticons would actually mesh with the environment properly. So I've got very good fond memories of running around that map as Colhane.
And of course, that's one of the largest RPGX maps. But of course, Jensen, you can probably say more about this, that you can't always fill a full ship. Sometimes you've got quite a skeleton crew.
That's true, yeah, especially on the bridge of the Atlantis, which I love the bridge. It's wonderful, but that is definitely for a large RP. For an RP of 2 or 3, it's almost like you're it's like 2 or 3 people on a ship when it's on the bridge.
That's when things like the shuttles come in quite a lot, and that's where you really get into the using your imagination and coming up with those stories which can live in that small environment.
Absolutely.
So let's talk more about some of the things that you're doing in the future with it. I'm not sure how much you're doing, Tim. If you still have much involvement.
Oh, not at the moment, because at the moment I'm mainly focusing on my iPhone app, iComics. So sadly, I'm taking a bit of a break at the moment.
Okay. And Jensen?
Well, I think right now in the RPGX community, especially at TLO, we kind of have a lot of the old veterans kind of fading away a little bit slowly, and we have a lot of new people who are slowly kind of getting to the level where they can do things like run SRPs or craft masterful plots. And so we're kind of in that awkward transition phase right now, but I think that in the future we will see those new members stepping up, and there's a lot of good talent there. I think one of my personal priority is to kind of build up the RPGX community more than TLO. For the longest time, TLO has kind of been the only English RPGX community, and that's always been a little concerning to me. But we have seen a new community come up, STORP, run by Saris, and he's been doing a lot of really good things, playing around with more advanced versions of RPGX, and bringing in some people from STO. And so we've been working alongside them, and we really hope to kind of see them rise as kind of another really good, stable RPGX community, so that we will see some longevity in the community as a whole.
Right. And do you think there's much hope left out for HoloMatch, or is it one of those very rare occasional things you'll see people hopping on?
I think HoloMatch will still be around. I don't think it'll ever be as popular as RPGX is, but I think I mean, it has been like 13 years. I mean, it's amazing people still play HoloMatch in my view, but I think everyone enjoys a good HoloMatch from time to time. I know that's certainly the case in TLO, and I hear your HoloMatch event went really well. So I think we can still see that more on kind of a casual collegial sphere, if not a professional gaming clan sphere.
Yes. Well, going into that, talking about our recent HoloMatch tournament, let's have a look and see some of the highlights from it, and then we'll discuss a bit more following on from that.
Initiating program. Red Your team has stolen the enemy flag. One flag left.
So, that's some of the highlights from our recent tournament, and of course we've got Richard back. Hello.
Hello, sorry about that.
So, we're going to quickly catch up with some of Richard's thoughts on what we've been discussing already. So, one of the things we've just been talking about is how Elite Force compares to some of the newer games like Star Trek Online and the new shooters at time of the movies. What do you think?
It's a really good question. I think it's like anything. What's the difference between an old Nokia 3210 and the new Nokia X10, whatever it is now, in regards to that is kind of back in the day when the 3210 first got launched, and again with Elite Force got first launched in 13 years ago now, it was at the pinnacle of new technology. It was there. It was, it was absolutely fantastic. But now, 13 years on, technology has changed, things have changed, ideas have changed, Star Trek itself has changed, and I think Elite Force is good in its right, but I think there's so much more that we can now do with technology that I don't think Elite Force is keeping up with.
Do either of you two want to chime in some thoughts to follow on from that?
Well, I definitely agree with that. I mean, the engine technology is very old. Like, you might not remember this, but Intech 3 came out like right after 3D accelerated hardware came around. So a lot of it was experimental. A lot of it was just hacks to get it to work on the hardware of the day. So at the moment, I definitely think that it is definitely aging. It's using a very archaic version of OpenGL at the moment. So I think at this point it is amazing that it's still functional and still looks good on current hardware. I was expecting it to start to degrade over time, but it hasn't, which is really good. But yeah, I think at the same time it is definitely showing its age.
Do you think there will be a bit of a universe move with some of the people who are new to Star Trek and Discovery in this game potentially? Jensen?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. Because I mean, it's definitely an old mod and an old game, but still, it's very unique. And again, I just don't think that there's anything that can compare to RPGX. It's just such a unique platform that I think until some platform comes along which is somehow better for RPing, which could happen in the future, but I'm not seeing that now. I think that at least RPGX will still remain a big part of, still remain active and still attract a lot of Trekkies.
Richard?
I think as new people discover like the world of Star Trek gaming and the things, because obviously you've got the latest Star Trek game which has absolutely been slaughtered for things. I think in regards to RPGX, 2-3 years ago it wasn't easily available because you had to have Star Trek Elite Force 1 to begin with, and then obviously you had to download the RPGX mod with things like obviously the Last Outposts Complete Edition and other mods that are out there at the moment. It allows you to have one single download, and you've got RPGX there, you've got the multiplayer side of Elite Force without revealing the single player for Elite Force, so it's still giving Raven and other companies who develops the actual game itself chance to kind of get money, generate some revenue from the game from new people discovering it.
Okay, so let's move into some different topics now. So we've discussed Elite Force. Let's talk about some of the things that you're doing at the moment. So, Tim, you said you're working on iComics.
Yep, that's correct. If you guys haven't heard, I'm working on an app that lets you read DRM-free comic books on your iOS device. So the idea is there's a lot of websites out there, outside of the scope of like Marvel and DC, who release their comics online in open formats like zip files, CBZs, or even just PDF files. So the idea of iComics is an app that lets you just insert these files into your iOS device and then start reading them as quickly and as fluidly as possible on your iOS device. It's bloody difficult because to make it run fast requires a lot of multi-threaded programming, and the thing crashes constantly, so that's what I'm working on right now. But once it works stable, it feels really nice, and I'm really proud of it. At the moment, I'm selling it for $2, but I'm actually looking at migrating to the freemium model now. So the idea is you can get it for free, but if you like it, then you can pay for it afterwards. But yeah, it's doing pretty well. I'm really happy with it.
And have you got anything else in the works? Any things for other platforms, or is it just that in development at the moment?
Well, another thing I was looking at this year, as a bit of a side note to this, was I was playing with IdTech 3 on my Mac to try and get it to compile properly on an Intel version of OS X, because at the moment the only official version of Elite Force was the one that was made for the PowerPC era. And so I was trying to see how feasible it would be to actually make it a slightly updated binary, not an RPGX variant, but an original variant that would actually run on Mountain Lion and hopefully Mavericks properly. I didn't get very far with that, but it looked promising. I got it to compile stably in Quake 3 mode, so that's a side project to iComics at the moment, but we'll see how we go with that one.
And Richard, you're about to launch a Star Trek social media site.
Yeah! Well, we already have a version launched already, which is at www.thedatanetwork.co.uk. It's essentially, as you rightly said, a Star Trek social media networking website designed for the gamers, the fleet players, the average Joe who likes to play Star Trek games or watch Star Trek or anything like that. At the moment, it currently has 278 users actively using the network, which is absolutely fantastic. And myself and a team of 3-4 of us have been working on a new version of the website, in which we are hoping to bring into fruition and launch on the 25th of October, so only about 2 weeks away, in fact.
So what are some of the features users can expect from the site?
Okay, well, currently at the moment it's very similar and functionality-wise to Facebook and Twitter. The whole idea of it kind of came about after I was playing Star Trek Online. I'd finished a really hard STF, and I was thinking, you know what, I'd really love to have a place, because I'm not a part of a fleet, I'm kind of on my own doing lone wolf stuff, if that makes sense. I just wanted a place where I could say, oh, I've just done this really hard STF, you know, what are your other thoughts? And I did a little bit of Googling and found out there was no actual social media network like Facebook and Twitter designed just for Star Trek fans. So after careful thinking and various coding and other things, launched the Data Network, and the whole thing has changed quite rapidly over the past 3-4 months. It's been launched for 4 or 5 months now, and I've now got a good team of developers working with myself to help with the development side of things, and also the marketing and general presence of the name, the Data Network, in the social media world and the Star Trek world as well. And yeah, so that's kind of the functionality behind it at the moment. So for example, you've got @ tags, hashtags, you can upload where you've been, so map-wise, location-wise, films, movies, you can say games that you've played, food that you've eaten, SoundCloud clips, YouTube videos as well. And with the new network that we are launching, one of the main feedback that we had from various people is we want that they wanted functionality with Facebook and Twitter. So we've done exactly that. We've been able to link the data network with Facebook and Twitter, so that what you post onto the data network will then automatically be posted onto Facebook and Twitter, or to Facebook and then onto Twitter, then onto Facebook, and vice versa, and everything else. And I don't want to give too much away, because obviously I want to leave all the cool functionalities for when we actually launch. But one of the other things that we've been able to integrate is the ability to have polls. So if a fleet wants to ask its members who are following that profile a random question, then obviously they've got that functionality to do so.
Cool. So if you're watching this broadcast, then you probably enjoy Star Trek, because of course our main topic has been Elite Force today. So there you have it, a place to go and sign up to. So moving on to the RPGX sphere, what's happening over there?
In TLO anyway, we're kind of focusing on three things. We're focusing on continuing to get RPGX CE out there onto communities like Reddit or any Star Trek community or any just generally place where nerds hang out. So, and we've had some good success there, and we're launching another massive recruitment campaign. At TLO itself, we're doing a lot of training for new members, orientation, trying to build up the RPGX community for its new members, making them veterans eventually. And we're also working with a new Star Trek community in RPGX to try and expand the RPGX community beyond TLO. And so those are really our three focuses at the moment. So we're really excited about that. We have a new SRP starting, Star Trek Genesis. So if you're interested, come on our forums, check out.
And for anyone who doesn't know what an SRP is, do you want to quickly say what it means?
It's like a serial role play. It's basically like you participate in a Star Trek episode every week. You're a character. It happens usually once a week, and there's kind of a set plot, but you can still contribute to it.
Cool.
It's a load of fun.
And over here, we've got our regular videos still coming out. So on Friday, you can check out another episode of Feed the Beast as we move forward with our science and magic. Then on Monday, we've got more time traveling adventures in Hype. And on Wednesday next week, we've got brand new Bite-Sized, where we're going to be looking at some more mods. And on the point of the Elite Force tournament, we're going to be looking to run some more events in the near future. So make sure you like and follow us to hear more about that as and when stuff starts to happen. So thank you to my wondrous guests today. Thank you, Tim, Richard, and Jensen. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.